Today we have a special edition of Kevin Learns. Today I'm going to be teaching him the bird opening. As most of you know, this is an opening I'm very specialized in. It's a really cool one, and it's going to be a great tool for Kevin to immediately take his opponents into unknown territory where the eagle will soar.
Hell yeah.
Alright, so what do you know about the bird so much?
F4.
That's it?
Then I want to end up with my knight on F3. Oftentimes I know you fianchetto, and you want to push the e pawn at some point, but you have to wait.
Yeah. So which bishop are you fianchettoing, first of all?
The C bishop.
Good, yeah. This bishop, that fianchetto doesn't really work. I've talked about that a lot on my stream, but I really tried to make this whole setup work with knight f3, g3, and bishop g2, and objectively speaking, it just doesn't. It's not a good opening. Yeah. So let's first talk about d5. So d5, yeah, this is going to be the main move here. We're going to play knight f3, and pretty much against almost everything, we're going to play e3 here.
Okay.
The only exception is the horsefly defense. Do you know what that? Do you remember what that is?
That is it knight to h6?
Yeah, that's the horsefly defense. Here we play d3, they play g6, and do you remember the raven variation?
Queen to d2.
Good. Yeah, why?
I don't know.
The whole idea is we want to play e4, right? That would keep their knight out, but if we play it now, they're going to trade and then uncastle our king.
Yes.
So we just want to take back with the knight.
It makes sense.
Yeah. And there's some sneaky tricks here. They could play d4 to stop our e4 stuff because now they can do en passant, but then we play queen c3 and we're hitting the mango.
Nice.
I had an opponent who played this and he played knight f5 here and I just scooped up the mango and he resigned.
That's what I would do also.
This is like a 2700
Yeah.
on chess.com. So yeah, okay, so knight f3, we talked about the horsefly defense. But pretty much against everything else, you're going to be playing e3. So they could play bishop g4, they could play knight f6, they could play knight c6. Let's start with this. So knight f6, e3, e6. What do you think we should move now? Should we move our bishop out or start with the queenside fianchetto?
Start the fianchetto.
Why?
It's just because it takes a while, and I want to make sure that they can't get in position to harass me while I'm setting it up.
So that's not so much of an issue. The only time that would be a slight issue is if they play g6. If they play g6, then their bishop is going to come here, and you would need to rush, right? Because if you let them play bishop g7 and knight out, then you're never going to be able to move it.
Yeah.
And like some people might think that in this type of position here, oh, it's no worry, I'll just play c3 and then b3. Well, c3 ruins the whole bishop,
Yeah.
so you're not going to be able to do anything with it anyway. Good. Yeah, so if g6 you should be rushing, but there's a much bigger thing here. It's that your bishop has nothing to do yet. We want to wait out for them to put their knight there.
Yeah.
We're just waiting out. Like chess is a game of many different dimensions, and one of the games is just information. You want to move all the pieces out to squares you know you want them to go, while you wait for more information on what your opponent's setup is going to be.
Okay.
Yeah. So if they play c5, immediately bishop b5 becomes a bit better. Bishop b5 now would be terrible.
Yeah.
Because they're just going to respond with c6 and you've just wasted a move.
Mm-hmm.
So they can play e6, we play b3, they play bishop e7, we play bishop b2. And yeah, if they play knight c6 here, we're going to play bishop b5. If they ever play... in this position, actually, we're going to be playing bishop b5 anyway, but normally, though... Like, let me find another position. So something like this. We omitted bishop b7 here. Knight c6, bishop b5. Pretty much whenever their knight goes to c6, just put your bishop on b5. The only exception would be if for some reason you already put your bishop on e2.
Okay.
Then you wasted a move.
Yeah.
Right? Your bishop could have just gone there in one go, and instead it went there in two.
But is that kind of a sunk cost thing of, if it's better on b5, why does it matter whether I moved it before?
Well, it's more of the differential between it being on f1 and b5. That's much more drastic
That makes
than the
sense.
differential between e2 and b5.
Yep.
Yeah. If you had a full free tempo, though, and for some reason, like, they just burned a move and you could get your bishop to b5, then perhaps there would be an argument for it. But you're wasting an extra tempo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, yeah, sorry. So we're here. Let's say they play bishop e7 now. What do you think we would do?
Knight to e5.
Knight e5 is interesting, but the simplest is just take. Whenever you can take here and they can't take back with a piece, you should usually do it.
Okay.
Pretty much every single time. I don't think there's an exception in my course. There might be a few times you have other good ideas, but this is on the whole, maybe like 98% of the time at least equal to the other best ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So takes. What are you going to do here? Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to.
Castle.
Castling is good, but the thing is like long term here. What do you think they're gonna do? They have bishops, so they need to open up diagonals.
They want to push.
Yeah, they're gonna push this, right? Even if their pawns look really ugly here, the idea is their bishops are starting to get more and more open.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of positions here where even if you win this pawn somehow, their bishop just become very, very strong. So it's essential here to keep both of these pawns where they are, because if as long as both of these pawns are where they are, both of them are going to be seriously blocking the bishops.
Okay.
Right, and especially this one, right? This one has already been locked in by this pawn.
Yeah.
So what do you think we would do here? We know that they want to play this.
C4.
Yeah, exactly. We got to play. Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is with castles. So C4 here. Perfect. If they play bishop A6, what would we do?
Queen C2.
We want to always try to delegate responsibilities to the lowest common denominator.
D3.
Yeah, exactly. D3. Just build concrete. If they take, you can just... I'm sure you could take here this way, and we would probably be close to winning here. Believe it or not. Isn't that crazy? It's +1.
Yeah.
Yeah. Equal material, but the idea is these bishops are terrible, and long term, your knights have enormous pressure here. One knight is going to go to E5 to target C6. How are we going to target this pawn effectively on C5? Sorry. Let me just draw that arrow again.
C3 to A4.
Good, exactly. C3 to A4 is a very classic idea. You could also aim for D3, and yeah, so there could be some cases where like your knight hits C5 this way, and you have a knight here, and you drop it back to put even more pressure. Good. And your bishop could also come to A3.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Yeah, your knight is perfect on A4 here. Now, I want to be clear that that's because this pawn is weak. There are going to be positions where they have a pawn on D6. In those cases, putting the knight on A4 was useless. It just doesn't do anything. We always want to look at pawns that are not defended by other pawns. So going back here, they could also play bishop E7. We play bishop E2. Now, if they play C5, we throw in the check. The reason for this is that with our bishop on E2, we do have slightly less space than them. Right? They have 2 pawns on their 4th rank. We only have 1. So, in general, in those situations, your pieces might suffer from a cramp. And so for that purpose, you want to trade off.
Yep.
Do you remember that about space? Like when you have more space, or when you have less space, it's just that your pieces don't have enough good squares.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So like in this position, for instance, I guess your bishop could come to E2, but if it goes to D3, it's too vulnerable to this stuff. Like they could just play A6, B5, and start to harass it. So yeah, I mean, it's,
B5 and then trade with whoever they block with.
yeah, pretty much, exactly. Well, if they block with the bishop, then we're gonna trade. If they block with the knight, then we take, and we give them that bad structure. They can also play knight D7. What do you think we would do here? You didn't watch my bird crash course, did you?
I edited it. Is that when you go back to E2?
It's when you go to D3.
Okay.
The idea is that if the knight has been on D7, then it can't get to B4, so then your bishop is very safe here in this position. And the idea is if they play A6, I think you can play either C4 or A4. Let me check with the computer again. C4 is better. You just don't want them to steamroll you with B5 and C4. And yeah, after C4, this knight is just so misplaced here. It's very strange. Isn't this such a weird maneuver, like going here and then going back? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, like, the purpose is that it's all about just distracting the knight from the golden square.
I do remember the golden squares.
Nice. Okay, yeah, so check, knight D7, we just play bishop D3. If they play bishop D7, takes. You're going to get this position a lot. It makes sense to harken back to, like, the fundamentals of the F4, E3 structure. When we put a pawn on F4 here, we want to get a pawn to E4, but the problem is that in just so many cases, whenever we do that, we're going to create huge weaknesses. Like, to give you an example, C5, if we play E4 now, this might look good, but they're just going to play D5, and we have no way to maintain this properly, right? If we play D3, they're going to trade and then just uncastle our king.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is not good. So the idea is we want to play for this E4 pawn because this pawn armada is very nice, but the idea is that with our pawn on F4, it's just going to take forever to get this.
Okay.
That doesn't mean it's not going to be achievable, but it's just going to take a very long time. But so going back to this position here, we should be playing for D3, knight D2, and E4. Like in that game that I played against the world number 8, it was this, D3, queen C7. They're playing for E5. He needs to break through here somehow. Notice he also wants to play for c4. If he plays c4, then these pieces become better. They're both going to be able to use this square. So I played knight d2 here. I'm keeping extra control over this. I really honestly don't think that at the level of the people you're playing against, they're going to know to do this, but they can try for c4 here. And the idea is that your structure just gets so ugly. Look at that.
That looks bad.
Yeah. So this is worth the pawn for them. It's more or less equal. You're going to be able to hold on to the pawn with knight bd2 and queen e2, but it gets to a more or less equal position. In all these situations, though, what you should be really focused on is just getting... If you can get this pawn to e5, that knight is going to become really doo-doo. It's going to be a terrible piece. So yeah, like in that game I played queen c7, knight d2, bishop d6. He's playing for e5. I played queen e2. And here he played e5 and I played e4. And the idea is he cannot take because I'm going to play e5.
Nice.
And I'm forking.
That's a good tactic.
Yeah. Like, if he was to play rook e8, what would I play here? Because the idea is now he is threatening to take because I don't have e5.
f5?
Yeah. This is the whole idea. We're going slowly for a light square strategy here, and notice that we traded off the bishops, and that benefits a light square strategy. They're not going to be able to fight for the light squares as much, and their bishop is going to be really blocked in. You know, whenever we push our pawns onto light squares, their pawns normally will have to situate on dark squares to meet ours, and so that's going to be really positionally detrimental to the way his pieces are placed. Like, I think in that game he played d4. This is what happened, or no, I'm sorry, he just played d4 here, and I played f5, and knight g4, and knight c4. And this is the idea, like, look at my pieces long term. Perhaps this bishop is a little bad because it's pointed into concrete, but long term it's going to become very good. One of the ideas here is that once you get this structure here, your bishop is probably bad over here. It should be coming back this way.
Okay.
And you want to be throwing these up the board.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. I know this is a lot of info, but it's, like, trust me, like, for all of you watching at home, I think, like, the bird, at a very, very beginner level, the bird is not good because you're going to get checkmated. We're going to talk about that at some point, but, like, there was this horror story of, what was it? It was there were kids that were just starting out in chess. I think I told you this. This was crazy. Kids were just starting out in chess at the school I was working at, and one of the teachers thought it was a good idea to teach these kids the system, but these are kids who literally, like, just barely know how to move the pieces.
Yeah.
Like, any idea of, like, long-term strategy is just beyond the mark for them. These were, like, 5-year-olds, and so someone would check them here, and they would play g3, and the opposing team knew that these kids were going to be playing this, and so the opposing team taught their kids this thing.
Wow.
And yeah, and this won for them because the kids would just look at this and they're like,
free
oh,
queen.
Free queen.
Yeah. Oh no, my queen. That's brutal.
Yeah, and I think the opposing team also, like, taught their kids to, like, start shaking their head and, like, just really, really ham up the performance.
I don't know if I support that kind of coaching.
Call an ambulance! Call an ambulance! But not for me!
They're not actually getting better at chess at all. They're just deceiving people that don't know how the game works.
I mean, I got the wins, though.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. A win's a win.
This was like a city tournament where it was all about prestige and, like, you want to win the city championships to really, like, to be able to tell the parents at the PTA meetings. And, yeah, no, so this, So, okay, if you're just starting out in chess, if you've just learned how to move the pieces, do not play the bird. I don't want to get any emails about people playing the bird after just learning how the pawn moves. It's not going to work. It's not going to be good. But I think, like, after you're, like, 1,000, after you know, like, general ideas of strategy, at least you know, like, you're starting to understand these abstract concepts. I think the bird is a tremendous system because you're just taking people out of anything they've ever seen before.
Yeah.
Yeah. So f4 d5, I think... Yeah, I think that's more or less it. There's some other positions here that we could talk about, and I guess as we start to, as we see more of your games, it's going to get better. But, like, we'll cover, there's no way we could cover everything in a single video. I spent, like, 500 hours on this bird course, so there's just so many nuances and everything. But, I mean, overall, though, your system, you want to be aiming for this most of the time. There are a few exceptions, like, if they play g6... e3, bishop g7, now this is a very tricky line. Again, I think at your level, no one is going to be playing this, though. But notice what's the problem, right? Bishop b5 does not work at all. They have c6, and we also can't play b3 because we dropped the mango. So what would we do here?
Knight c3?
So knight c3 is positionally very risky. We want to... the problem with knight c3 is that nothing really agrees with anything. Knight c3 in itself, I know you want to put the knights on the golden squares, but the problem is, would our bishop ever do here? Our bishop is blocked this way. Even if our bishop gets here, it's blocked this way. And moreover, we're blocking this pawn, so we don't really have anything to do in the center otherwise.
Okay.
We could, I guess this might still be okay, just because we would be playing for d3 and e4. But, okay, yeah, perhaps, oh, this is only minus 0.5. This is really not the end of the world, but it's...
That's not good, though.
Yeah, for a white opening, it's definitely not good. Like, you never want to be worse out of the opening as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so going back...
Let me think.
You remember those Sunny D commercials?
No.
Where it was like this kid on a skateboard and he was drinking this orange juice. I'm not even sure if it's actual orange juice or if it's Sunny D, but at the end, like, the sun would come down and it would be the sun with a smiley face and they'd say, "Unleash the power of the sun."
That doesn't help me. That's not a useful hint.
Well, look out now. You just can't beat the power-packed taste of Sunny D. Unleash the power of the sun.
That's not a useful hint at all.
It will be. It will all make sense to you.
And it's not D3?
No,
I have no clue.
it's C4. This is an exception. Normally you do not play C4 because you're going to get the paraplegic structure, right, with this. You do not want these. You do not want these if you're missing a c-pawn. Do you see that? Because there's no way for you to cover this square.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very big weakness, but the idea here is that they had to take with the wrong piece here. They had to take with the queen. If they were able, literally after c4, there is a very special reason here. If they play knight f6 here, you're not supposed to play c4, because c4 they have c5, takes, and they can just take in the healthy way. And their bishop is going to come here anyway, right? You still can't play b3 because their bishop is going to bamboozle you too soon. But c4, and... okay, so going back here, though, the whole difference is that they had to take with their queen. We can play knight c3 with the tempo. And if they play queen d8... I've gotten this position a lot of times. I honestly forgotten what to do. I've gotten some winning positions against GMs and Title Tuesdays with this, but it's very dangerous. But the idea here is that they did waste 2 tempi, and that makes an enormous difference. You're going to notice that even in a structure that might be so-called bad, if you got 2 free tempi, it's generally fine because your pieces just get so many better options. And you have 2 tempi to try to change the structure in some beneficial way. Like, for instance, here they play knight f6. Because they haven't had that same... Right, in that other position where their knight was on d5, they already had so much pressure on our position. But here, we can already play for e4. Notice if the knight was on d5, they would be able to snack on f4. But here this is just fine. We'll play d3, queen e2. We do have a bit of a weakness in our structure. Can you notice it?
I mean, it seems like there's multiple. Like, the bishop is in the middle of war, but that's easily fixed. But then, like, the dark bishop can attack the king at any time if we want a castle. That seems like it could be a problem, right?
What? What are you talking about?
I'm thinking, like, this whole diagonal is very open, and it's not being blocked off yet.
Yeah, but it's blocked by their pawn. I don't think that would be a problem.
Yeah, that's true.
You have the right idea, though. This is a weak square. They're going to install a knight there sooner or later. Right? We can never cover it with our absent, non-existent c-pawn or our too far advanced e-pawn. So yeah, it is a slight weakness, but at the end of the day, we have better development, and that these things sort of cancel out. They have no weaknesses. You notice that? Because they've advanced less pawns. So we have more control, we have more space, but at the same time, they have less weaknesses. That's the way it goes. When you can't advance pawns without creating weaknesses, and so it's just a matter of trying to create like a limited set of weaknesses that are relatively imperceptible and very hard for their pieces to sort of gather around.
So what's the general idea for capitalizing on a situation like that? Is there like obviously there's specific things, but is there a general philosophy of you have more control, they have less development? Like, do you want to, I guess just continue developing, push your pawns, or is it case by case?
Well, I mean, there are a few things. You could either just keep on playing for development and make sure to stay ahead of the pace, or you could just try to rectify the weaknesses with the extra time you have.
Yeah.
Right, like one way to rectify the weakness would just be play d3, bishop e3, and then d4. Right, and do you remember that Kramnik game?
Yeah.
You trade the pawn off on the square that's the weakness, and that tends to absolve you of everything. So, like for instance, yeah, you could just use the extra few tempi to do that. This is a very strange position, though, and I want to be clear. Like, only in this exact position do you play c4. And by the way, yeah, so computer here is saying it's minus 0.3. That's because it's a weak computer. My strong my super strong computer. Okay, it's bringing up a move here. There's e6 here. No one is going to play e6. E6 is technically, I think, according to the strongest engine, slightly more preferable for black, but it's more or less equal. This is Lichess's weak computer here. But yeah, the idea of e6 is that their knight is coming to e7, and their bishop is able to look down the board. Something to keep in mind, though, you can always go for this structure. This is a stone wall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I should talk a little bit more about that. Sorry, I'm just bouncing around here. The idea of the stone wall, we have a fantastic control over the e5 square. We can always think about just planting our knight there and just being happy. That is something I'm realizing now. Like, teaching you this entire bird course in 1 hour or one video is a bit tricky for me. But like, let's say that this type of position happens with bishop d6. I'm wondering, so here we could play bishop e5. We could also play bishop e2. Like, let's say knight c6, knight e5, castles. You're going to see this a lot. What do you think we would be taking with here?
Bishop?
So no, we're going to be taking with f-pawn. Almost always take with f-pawn, guys, because what are we doing with f-pawn? We're digging the knight out of the golden square, you're opening up the rook, and it's not so much that you're digging the knight out of the golden square as you're digging the knight out of being relevant to the king side at all.
That makes sense, but yeah, it's a little counterintuitive because your bishop sucks now and your pawns are doubled.
Your bishop doesn't suck though, right? There's a lot of scope behind the pawn, so even though your bishop is pointed into a pawn, you have to factor that in about how much scope there is. Still, it's still fighting over a large portion of the board, and as long as they could play knight d7, for instance, and we would make our bishop even worse with d4. But the idea here is that their entire position is just sort of pointed into nothing now.
Yeah.
They don't have anything to do, and we're going to play bishop d3 and queen h5. Long term, you could play c3 to fix this pawn and then just reroute your bishop back in this more healthy way. But they're also missing their best piece, right? They've set up most of their pawns on light squares, so losing their bishop matters a lot. And meanwhile, if they take with their knight, we would also do this. We would take, in this case, we have just a fork, and this is an easy win. There are a lot of positions like this where we just install the knight on e5 and we sit comfortably. Like, I know in this position we are supposed to play bishop e5, but I just want to show you an example of what to do. So knight c6, bishop e2, castles. They take, we take, they play knight d7. This is also completely fine for you. You could just play for d4. Something I really like to do here is I like to play bishop f3 and I like to play for c4, and I want to have my bishops just rake the board.
Makes sense.
Yeah. This is all very confusing, right?
No, it's not confusing. No, so far it's like, you know, I'm not gonna memorize all these moves in particular, but I get the general idea of, I think some of the main things that we're attacking. Like, yeah, and I'll remember a decent amount, but a lot of it's playing off the, you know, you're playing F, but you're really attacking like B and C in most cases, it seems, or like locking that down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just managing their knight and bishop to make sure they're not getting too crazy.
Yeah.
That seems to be the general sort of philosophy of most of the positions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've ever talked about openings at this high a level, though. Notice that our strategy is always changing depending on what they're doing.
Yeah, but I'm still, I need to have, like, I understand that it's different every time or whatever, but I need to, like, have some general idea of what's going on. Or, like, there are through lines, it seems, in most of the positions that I think that it helps me understand what I'm going for, because I'm not going to memorize all the moves. I want to have an idea of some positional things that I'm aiming for.
Okay, so the main positional thing you're aiming for is that chop on c6. That's like the main thing, or knight e5. Those are like the two things, and then very long term, if you can do it, if your opponent's just dawdling around, play for d3, e4.
Yeah.
So, like, in the short term, your bishop should go to b5, your knight should probably go to e5, and then long term, I'll make it just a different color, you should be playing for d3 and e4.
Yeah.
And that type of plan can be supported by these blue lines with queen e2, knight d2.
And the bishop fianchetto seems, I guess, like a secondary concern to the things that you just mentioned.
Well, the bishop is going to be fianchettoed.
Yeah, in essentially all cases except
if they
G6.
Except if they stop you.
Yeah.
As long as you can go for it, you should go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is more or less everything. You already were trying out Bird's opening, right? What did you say people were playing?
A lot of the Froms.
I hate the from. So yeah, we just take. Were they playing d6 here? I would bet they play
Never.
d5.
Yeah, they just play e5, and then they start doing all kinds of wacky stuff.
Yeah, if they just give you the free pawn, then you have a fantastic center here. Like if knight c6, just play d4 and hold on to it, and play e4. Okay, well you do need to be a little careful, right? If this check hits a weak pawn on e4, you're getting busted. So just before that happens, like I'm just trying to figure what would they play here. If they're not going to play d6, they need to play d6 here, even if they're not getting a From's, just to get this pawn out of the way, because their knight can't use the golden square.
Yeah.
This is like the worst From's gambit ever.
It's happened like a weird number of times.
Oh,
They just do that.
yeah, the computer's pointing out that actually queen h4 hits this pawn, so there's no need for this yet. Just play knight f3, though. Yeah, just knight f3, and then you're going to play d4 and e4, and you never have to worry about this queen h4 funny business.
I'm impressed by this computer. I've never had comments on every move.
Yeah, Lichess is a fantastic website. Although we also like chess.com.
Yeah.
No enemies here.
Yeah. That is impressive.
Yeah.
They're like such a like niche opening. They have like comments on every move.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah, it's a really user-friendly website. Not that makes them special at all over
Yeah.
chess.com. Yeah, no, d4, I can't believe I actually blundered that. Like, normally on my GM radar, I would just immediately realize that d4 is running into queen h4. But yeah, just play knight f3, d4, e4. At higher levels, though, people are going to play the real From's Gambit. So, honestly, I've talked about this before, guys. If they play From's Gambit, if you can play it well, then you're going to be almost winning. But the problem is, it is very hard to play it well. So do make sure, as soon as you see this the first time, that means you've entered the rating range of people who actually know what they're doing when they play the Froms. So you do need to study this in depth. I would say study like an hour or two. And just like go through the moves with the computer. The nice thing is that against, like, even if black plays at their best, black is already 0.7 worse.
Yeah.
And that's assuming they play their best. Most people are not going to play their best. Most people are just going to go for the mating attack. But you have to play knight f3 here. And depending on what they do, I think there are a bunch of moves here. Like, most people play g5 here. But already that's great, because then you just play g3. They were playing for g4, but now you can play knight h4. Some people play bishop e7 here. I'm trying to remember how it goes. Yeah, no, some people play h5, you play d4, and then they play bishop e7. And they're just going to chip through here, right? And if you play knight g2, they're going to chip through anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So what would your plan be here?
Perhaps, like knight f5?
No, the bishop is watching it.
Oh, yeah. Just seize the center, continue pushing?
That would make sense, but they're going to take here, right? And then if you take, they're going to take with check. And
Yeah, it's over.
So what do you think about their bishop, just in general? Is their bishop a good piece or a bad piece?
So far, it's good.
Yeah, it's very good, right? They've set almost all their pawns. A lot of their pawns are on light squares, so their bishop, they've already weakened a lot of their dark squares. So the point I'm going with this is that we could actually lose this pawn so long as we have a nice way to respond to the check at the end. If we have a nice way to respond to the check, then they're going to have traded off their best piece, their prized pearl, that e7 bishop.
So maybe bishop e3?
Bishop e3 makes sense, but bishop f4 is just healthier.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly, though. Takes, queen takes. I've had this position many times. If we turn on... Can I turn on the... Alright. I did want to check. I know this is sort of all over the place, but yeah, white is completely winning here. Lichess is loading, so just give us a second. But yeah, this position is completely winning. Our bishop is fantastic, and this is why, like, I rag on the Fromm so much. I really hate it. I think it's the worst gambit on earth. But it's literally like, look at the center.
Yeah.
They've given us the center. It's so simple. Just get your king out of the way, and you're just dominating the center. Their pieces, because when you dominate the center, their pieces have no way to access one side of the board from another.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like think about how would they ever get this knight over the king side?
Yeah,
instance?
it looks terrible.
Yeah. Okay. So for whatever reason, the database is jammed, but I have gotten this position many times. So yeah, some people play bishop e7 and that stuff. I think I'm trying to remember the rest. There were a lot of other moves though. What is the idea here? I think I can't remember. There's one really, really cool line here. I think. Oh no, I think I was studying this repertoire. If they play bishop e7 first, then you don't have time for it, right? Because we can't get our bishop out. So we have to play knight g2, and then they play h5, and then we play knight f4. They play h4. We need to defend this rook, so we have to play bishop g2. They play h3. We play bishop e4. They attack us with f5. We play bishop d3. They play knight c6.
This is crazy.
And we play bishop e5. I remember I got this position in my course. Isn't this? And look at this. This is have you ever seen a Roy Lopez or anything like this with the pawn on e2?
No.
It's insane. These positions are completely nuts.
Is this not bad for you? It seems like, I mean, I get everything that you can control the center and do other stuff now, but they're so far advanced.
Well, you're not controlling the center anymore, right?
But you have
Because
the
kept
opportunity
this
to
pawn-
maybe,
they-
yeah.
No, they kept this pawn on f5, so you have some control over the d pawn, but not. You're not going to get a full center here. But the thing is this is another positional weakness, though. This knight is fantastic here because they've pushed their pawns up too far. This is a classic, like, I'm not even sure how to describe this, but the idea is this f5 pawn is super weak because our knight is super strong. Our knight can hop out of the way and make
Yeah.
a threat at any time. So a very simple plan here: load up on the f pawn with like castle, or put your rook on f1, put your bishop on d3, even maybe get your knight to e3. As weird as that would be.
Yeah.
And just sooner or later, your knight is going to be able to move out of the way with tons of opportunities, and the f5 pawn is going to drop.
That is cool. I get what you're saying. I probably will never see this position for many months before I go up, but
Yeah.
it is a wacky one.
Dude, I predict, honestly, like, the Caro, your black repertoire is going to take a lot longer to develop. I don't think you're going to be hitting 2200 that soon, but I think, like, you're going to see the learning curve is going to grow tremendously. I would say you're going to be winning 80% of your games or 90% of your games with the bird within, like, a month.
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
No, the bird is cool. It is fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I've only gotten this position, like, once yet so far in a game, but yeah, what a crazy position.
Yeah, your opponent even thought to, like, you know, I wonder, what's the computer say at this point?
I think it's like +1. Plus 0.4, okay. No,
It's going up.
It's going up a little. 0.6, okay. There's some really weird positions here, though. There's one, knight c6. Okay, maybe you're not supposed... I thought bishop e5 was the move here. There's some position where you just give away the pawn on d4. Like, at some other point, we'll look through my notes on my chess-based files. There's some file where, like, you play d4 here, and it looks like you get a terrible structure, but the idea is that their pieces are really bad here. That's the other thing to keep in mind. Like, look at this bishop. This bishop is completely blocked by its pawns, and it also can't go here. I talk about this a lot. If you push the other bishop pawn, then the bishop on the other side of the board is going to really suffer. Why? Because it's blocked, and its normal square on e6 has been completely relinquished.
Yeah.
It has nothing protecting it there.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah, so e5 takes, I think we should talk a little bit about one other thing. So they can play... In this position, they normally play knight e7. This is how everyone remembers it. You play d4, knight g6, and now you take, they take, and they do have some pressure here. This is the thing, like, you have a very nice center here, but they do have some pressure. If you don't dodge the bullets... Computer is saying it's 0.3, but computer... I don't trust the Lichess computer. It's going to go up to 0.7. But the idea is, yeah, we just cover it. All we need to do is cover it. If you can just dodge the threats, you're going to have a close to winning position. They play knight c6 now, and they're threatening to bamboozle us. They're going to take, we take with the queen, and then they take with check, and our queen is going to drop. So we got to protect it. We got to play c3. And yeah, this is why the computer is saying it's 0.4, because some people can play this super timid approach with bishop e6. No one is going to do that, though. Everyone runs into the fire with bishop f5. We play e4, they play queen e7. And the whole idea here is we literally have a beautiful center, but we just need to make sure that we can maintain it. So, like, I would definitely recommend, both to Kevin and to those at home, when you're playing a Fromm's Gambit, you should be spending a lot of time just to make sure you're dodging all the pitfalls. If you can dodge all the pitfalls, the rest of the game is going to be quite simple.
Playing against the Fromm's Gambit.
Yeah, playing against the Fromm's Gambit, exactly. I would never recommend the Fromm's Gambit.
Yeah.
Not a friend of the show. Bishop g2, and yeah, they castle queenside. We play bishop e3, we're blocking the pin. Now e takes is a legitimate threat. And yeah, I got in an internet argument with this guy. He was saying that people are going to play bishop d7 here. I don't think anyone... I think I've seen bishop d7 literally once so far.
Yeah.
Even among 2800s. Most people here play rook e8. And you play knight d2 here. And the idea is you're reinforcing this pawn. A lot of people here make this mistake. They think that they can take here. Because this does win a few pawns. Look at this. They're going to take here, we take, and then they take with check. Why is the computer saying this is winning for us?
It will take... Alright, so you'll move your king. It'll take the rook. Then you could take the bishop.
Well, then they're going to take this, right? So where should we move our king here?
To the d file.
Well, I mean, our bishop needs just a bit more protection, and then we would be able to take here.
F2?
E2.
E2.
Yeah,
Okay.
right, because takes... Yeah, now we can just take the piece. As you can see in the database, I've already gotten this once.
Nice.
Like, this exact position once, and this isn't including chess.com. Chess.com, I've gotten this several times. So 2800 recently played this against me. Like, that guy who I was arguing with was saying that everyone plays bishop d7. No one does. Everyone just goes for this trick.
Yeah.
I mean, but by the way, also, like, think about why that is, and it makes a lot of sense. You're not going to be preparing in depth against the bird.
Yeah.
People play the
Not
bird
yet.
1% of the time.
Until it pops off.
Yeah, it is going to pop off at some point. But literally, only if we go back to the starting position, only like 1% of games. Literally, look at this. 1% of games.
Yeah.
Out of 5 million games, let's include all of them. Let's include this. Okay, yeah, no. I'm not including Hyperbullet. But yeah, out of 5 billion games, F4 is played in 46 million.
That's not that much.
Yeah, it's literally only 1%.
Yeah, that's like only slightly more. Well, actually, yeah, only like twice as much, or less than twice as much as just knight c3, which is like.
That's not the sodium attack.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking now. But even then, it's like the ones below it are not like mainline openings at all.
No, literally every single other opening is more popular.
Yeah.
Pretty much every single legitimate, even E3. I would argue E3 is a less good move than F4. E3.
I very rarely see E3 at my level.
I've never seen E3. Yeah, but I mean that's the whole
What's it
idea,
even
right?
called?
E3? I don't know. Let's see. Okay, it's got no name. We could. Oh, what?
Von
What is that?
Kruij.
Van Cruijs opening. What is that? Okay, that's weird.
White wins 47%. That's not that good.
Yeah, that's really I wonder what F4 is. So let's see F4's overall score. That's surprising. 49%. Oh, 49 to 47. Okay, that's not bad. That means I guess it's that's okay. It's not
The
perfect.
best one on that list is 51, so I'm not going to say 49 is bad.
It's really not bad. I actually did want to do this though. What do you think my win rate is with the bird? I'm gonna check my own database. As of late, it's been hitting like 85%. But
60, I'll say then, because I assume at the start you were hitting much lower numbers.
yeah. Okay, it's to be determined. But I mean, regardless, to get back to my point, almost no one is going to study this until my bird course comes out and starts to really pop off and start to really affect like lower level play and lower level trends. Literally, no one is going to know what to do against this. And even if someone sees this once, they might study the Froms a little bit. They're not going to study to move 15.
No.
So it really, like, this is just completely free elo if they play the Froms Gambit. Alright, yeah, we're waiting on this. I guess you could just edit this out when,
Yeah.
Тапс считает, что Гремячкина следует немедленно дозаправить, иначе он не выполнит задание.
Когда может взлететь заправщик? Немедленно, но...
В чем дело?
Нужно не менее 2 часов, чтобы он смог догнать Гремячкина.
А это чей самолет?
Генерала Павлова.
Пусть он и заправит Гремячкина, они идут навстречу.
Okay, I guess, like, in the meantime, while, like, everything is loading, we'll talk about c5. So, against c5, we're just going to play knight f3. They play knight c6. We play e3, and the idea here is we just want to go here and take. And long term, we're just going to play for d3 and e4. I would assume you could actually get this position quite often. Because the thing is people, a lot of people are going to see f4 and think you played e4 and just play c5. Were you seeing any Sicilians? You were, when you played e4.
When I play yeah, occasionally. It's not the most common, but you definitely see it.
Yeah. Yeah, so the idea here is just to give it like a sample variation, like knight f6, bishop b5, let's say they play e6, takes, and as you can see, the computer already rates these positions as good. We just take, and play c4, and ruin their bishops, right? This one is stunted by this bishop, this one stunts the other bishop, and their bishop also can't get out this way because we would just play d3. This is a very simple position. Long term, you just want to play d3, and then, just like before, you are playing for e4, e5. That's going to be a very nice setup, especially here, because against e4, e5, your knight is going to get this great Your knight is going to get this great square on e4 here.
So after this, like, it obviously depends on their moves and stuff, but am I trying to just go push the D and E pawn, or am I trying to fiend shadow first? I'm trying to understand when I'm fiend shadowing and when I'm not.
Okay, no, I didn't mention this. Yeah, against the Sicilians, you don't need to fiend shadow as much, especially because if you get this structure, your bishop is going to be fine over here. I should have mentioned that. So we do have an update. My score on chess.com, or on Lichess, and this, keep in mind, I haven't been playing on Lichess as much, so on chess.com it's going to be higher. It's 68%.
That is good. That is very good.
68% win, so I guess like with some draws, that's like 70%.
That is very good.
It's very good. It's very nice. All right, I think we've done it with the. There's a few other things to talk about. They could also play They could also play against knight c6, e3, d6. This is the one exception here. Bishop b5, bishop d7. This is not good.
Go back to e2.
And we would go to e2, but just to talk about it more, what's the problem here? Their bishop is looking through. We've given them a very good bishop here if we ever chop. And more than that, back in those other positions, I guess I never finished the thought, but like, let's say they play d5 here. What is the difference here? They're only going to have the bishop for a short while. We can play knight e5 and just chop on it immediately. And again, here, they do need to defend it with a piece. If they don't and let us take, then their structure is ruined. It's all, as long as they get the doubled pawns, we're always slightly better. So, yeah, against d6, instead, we're going to play d4. This is a pretty strange position. Their best move here is d5, which most people are not going to do. Most people are going to think, oh, I should be developing, but the idea is we're just going to bum rush them and just kick them out and just steamroll them with d5. Kick that knight out of the golden square.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is against d6 and c5. I mean, I'm not expecting you to memorize or have this all remembered, but the idea is that this is a good frame of reference for you to go with going forward. So I think, wow, we've been recording for 45 minutes, so we should just play a game now.
Let's do it.
So let's play a 10 plus 5 is good enough, or 15 plus 10. So for those who don't know, this is mostly a way to test Kevin out, which is even better for the...
Congrats on the one other guy.
Yeah.
Good game.
Big ups. What is the... Oh my... Alright.
Say goodbye to your points.
No, I mean, it's for the best. I really don't care about my rapid rating on chess.com or chess.
Nice.
Alright, here we are. Tarek. That's the name of my mom's ex-husband.
That's good info for the fans. Shout out to Tarek.
Shout out to Tarek if you're watching your ex-wife's son's chess channel.
F3?
Yeah, knight f3. So what do we do here?
E3.
Yeah, exactly. Always e3. So notice what they did here. What's the significance of this move?
It allows us to pin, and then when we take, they could mess up their structure.
Yeah, and also they're not getting c5, so they're not going to have as good control over this square.
Makes sense.
Positionally, this is very dubious to put the knight here like this, but the idea is that they're playing for a very quick e5 here. Normally, if you just were dawdling around, they would play bishop g4, take, and then play e5.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we'll play bishop e5 here.
Take.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's very simple. You know what the really nice thing is? A lot of people here love the bishop so much that they'll play a6 and they'll give it to us for a free tempo.
Nice.
Like, it's like 30% of people. Like, it's not only letting us give them the terrible structure, but it's giving it to us on a silver platter with that free tempo.
Nice.
So what do we do here? Notice they played g6, right? So they're going to play bishop g7 soon. So we should sort of have a fire under our butts as to...
Then we play b3.
Yeah, exactly. We need to do it immediately because otherwise they're going to play bishop g7. And the idea is, like, for instance, if we castled here, that would be a mistake because bishop g7, b3, b3, they could play knight e4, and we wouldn't be able to get our bishop to b2 in time. We would have to self-destruct our fianchetto hopes. This is the guy that we forfeited against. He's watching.
Nice.
Umo Takuno Mundo.
Fianchetto.
Nice. I'm confident here. What do we do here?
Then we will knight to c3.
So, I should have taught... Like, there's so many different nuances in the bird. It's going to take a while before you know all of them. We should try to castle and play knight e5 before going for knight c3. And especially here, knight c3... Actually, that would be fine, by the way. Even though these are where the weak pawns are, this is also a weak square that we can drill into. Mm-hmm. I've had this in some games. The knight goes to c3 and a4, and then we put the bishop on d4. But the idea is right now, like, this pawn is super weak here. It would make more sense just to get the tempo.
Okay.
It really is insane though. Like once you understand these basic ideas, this position becomes so straightforward to play. So okay, so what should we do here?
Then we would. Do you just want to push? No. Castle?
Yeah, right. Do all the things we know we want to do first.
Yeah.
Every single move they make, they're giving us more information. So here, with this bishop here, they have some interesting ideas. They could play knight d7 with the pin, right? If we take, they take here and we lose the mango. So, I don't think he's going to play knight d7. Tarek was never good at finding these moves.
That's why it didn't work out with your mom. I can't be with no man that plays d7. Shouts to Tarek.
Yeah. My mom's ex-husband. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Okay, so knight d7. Okay, we have a few ideas here. First of all, you could play d4, and the idea there is that if they take, you can take here, and they have their bishop pointed at concrete. That would be fine. You also have a very spicy move, and I sort of like the spicy move more. It's better just to keep them in the most spicy situation. We can play knight d3 here. Do you see that? We're defending the bishop, and this is just such a disorienting move. Of course, the knight is not going to be good on b2, but the idea is that the more bishops we trade, the more our knights are going to prosper here. What type of move? That's not a good move. We'll talk about that in a second. I want to see what you... So they're playing for what? They're playing for e5.
Thinking. I want to just maybe push the f1 to block that pawn
Yeah,
there.
exactly. Dude, you have Grandmaster Intuition. Yeah, exactly. f5. And also, the square is super weak. We want to be able to play knight f4.
Yeah.
And get in there. Yeah, dude, you're going to be a GM in no time.
Nice.
Okay, maybe not a GM, but you're going up.
That would make history.
Yeah. No, honestly, though, I'm completely certain you're going to make... like 2200 on chess.com.
Awesome.
Every now and then you suggest yeah, this is extremely strong. Dude, Tarek is going down. He's going to pay alimony on these structural weaknesses.
Yeah.
Okay, g5. Well, what do you think about this structure here?
It does not look great.
Dude, it's suicidal for him. Look at his bishops. His bishops are complete garbage here, and this square is super weak. It's hard for our knights to get there, but now... I mean, we should really think about this. If they can play c5 and d4, one of their bishops would be better. So this should be our main focal point, just stopping them from playing c5. What could we do here?
Bishop to a3.
Bishop a3 makes sense, but that's not as centralized as we would like.
Bishop to d4.
Yeah. Exactly. You remember in the first episode of Yu-Gi-Oh when who was it? Kaiba kills Yugi's grandpa or something like that. Just think about inheriting the heart of the cards in this position.
In the American version, they get sent to the Shadow Realm, but apparently in the Japanese, that literal translation, they're just killing people. But in America, they're like, we can't have this in a kid's show, so they changed it. But every time they say go to the Shadow Realm, they just died.
No, but some people came back from the Shadow Realm, though.
Yeah, but I guess it's coming back from the dead. But in the, from my understanding, in the Japanese show, they were just killing people in the card game.
All right, that's good to know. That's a fun fact.
That is a fun fact.
Okay, so Queen e8, he's finally playing e5. But the idea here is even if he plays e5, we take and his structure is ruined here. So we just need to reroute more pieces around this c5 square. What else could we put there now?
b4.
Well, that's a pawn, so that's not a piece. Whenever we say pieces, we're not talking about pawns.
How can we get this knight to do something? Let me think. C3? Knight C3?
Yeah, exactly. We're going to put the knight on A4. Mm-hmm. Perfect. We could just pre-move this, because when he plays E5... Even, actually, if he plays E5, we could just keep the center closed, because it is good to keep the game close against when you're playing knights against bishops, but his structure is so ruined there that there's really no problem. And this position is so bad for him. And I mean, I really want to stress this to you guys at home. Have you all ever seen a position like this with knights on C3 and D3?
No.
That's the whole point. Your opponents just are going to be completely bamboozled.
Yeah, it's understandable that they get confused. It's like, as someone that, like, at my level, it's almost always like E4, E5, or, you know, it's like 90% E4 openings, it feels like. So this is so much different, the positions that you end up with.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and also you have to keep in mind, like, humans are relatively simple creatures. If we see something we don't know, we just assume it's bad.
Yeah.
And that's the worst type of, like, mentality to bring into a position which is dangerous for you. Because you're just gonna, you're gonna relax, and before you know it, you're gonna be in my wife's, my mom's ex-husband's situation
Yeah.
of being dead lost. Yeah, I would assume he's close to lost here. We can analyze this with the computer after.
It looks bad.
The other thing is this, if he plays f5, finally he fixes this bishop, but we could just trade it, and the idea is that he's still stuck with one terrible bishop.
Yeah.
He's
It's
stuck
about to
with
be
one
under
awful
attack.
bishop. And he has, if he pushes f5, he's like finally managed to trade the bishops, but look at that, he has so many weak dark squares.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So it's not even like it was a positional accomplishment. Like, in some ways it helped his position, but in other ways, he's still just as dead as before.
It's too little too late.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those pawns are way out there.
Yeah. I mean, I really want to stress to you, like, okay, like, you are going to need to get some practice just figuring out, like, which positional factors to pay attention to, but once you understand them, it's so simple to play these positions.
Yeah.
Just zoom in on the c5 square. I'm calling it now. I think you're going to hit maybe, okay, honestly, your black repertoire is going to need work, but I would say you're going to hit, like, a 70%, 80% win rate with the bird within, like, 2 months.
I'd be very happy with that.
Okay, so they play bishop c8. We'll just bring a knight in.
Yeah.
Nothing to worry about. Very logical. Honestly, half of me we probably should not have even done that because this knight is just waiting around doing nothing. It's like Beetlejuice.
What are you doing?
Hmm?
What are you doing?
Nothing. Me? Just hanging around.
Just hanging around.
All right, this is even better. Look at this. Now if he takes, we just get a skewer. So he's completely stuck now. Like, the one question in these positions is how do we improve?
This is the part of the game where I always get very confused. So
that is a hard question in this position because our structure is so healthy here. It almost is positionally or mentally counterintuitive to try to play for our structure, but the idea is we should be playing for this eventually. Because the idea is, if we look at their structure, this is the healthiest pawn. We do not want to trade this in a way that we undouble their pawns, but we do want to play this in a way that they have to trade.
So, rook F to E?
Well, why not just move this rook there? Our rook is already good.
So where are you going to put the queen? Maybe, does queen to H5 do anything?
No, not really. It would be better to have our queen look at these two squares.
So queen F3?
Good, exactly. Right, keep in mind, right, their structure is ruined here, and they have no immediate threat, so we do not need to rush.
Yeah.
Like, there's no need to sacrifice. This rook is already decent here.
Mm-hmm.
This position is so bad for them. I guess they could play knight e5 and hope for something. Yeah, they're going to play knight e5. Knight e5 is not a big problem, though. If they take, we could just take. We could take with their knight, or we could take with the pawn. We'll play queen g3 here. We're better anticipating knight e5. If their bishop were off the board, queen f5 would be fantastic, but the idea is queen f5 is going to be walking into a lot of problems at the moment. Long term here, we would love to get this knight over here. Look at that. They have
That's going to take quite a few moves, though.
Yeah, it might not happen, but eventually, maybe if our knight gets around somewhere like here, it could happen. There's just more and more pressure in this position. Let's say they play knight e5 and they take here. We could take with the knight. We could also take with the pawn, though, because look, we're opening up on this weakness here.
Yep.
He is complete, and look at this bishop. It's completely dominated by our knight. Like, no matter where it goes, it's just going to be under pressure. Yeah.
Is there any... Well, yeah, okay, I'll ask the question later.
Alright, so we don't want to take, right? That would fix his structure. We could just keep improving. Let's just play h3. He really has nothing to do here. If he takes, we have the comfortable choice. We could take with the knight. I think taking with the pawn would be better, though.
Is there any... This is what I was going to ask before. Is there any value to h4 to pressure that?
No, because the thing is with h4 we're threatening to undouble this pawn. We want to keep this pawn here.
Yeah.
As best we can. He's playing h6. He's dawdling around. We can just add more and more pressure. I guess we could play rook e1. We're gonna play for e4. Notice that look at the rook e1 is a perfect GM move because what is it doing? We're threatening to play e4. E4 might be a disaster for him, but we're not actually playing e4 though. So the pressure is really on, and a lot of people here are just going to panic and start taking, and then that just gives us another simple plan, and we don't even have to go for e4.
Yeah.
This position is so bad. Like, I can only say it so many times. It's so ugly for him. He should really think about playing f5, and, you know, he's going to be a bit worse with this bishop, but at least then, like, some things will get traded. Nah, that's also a terrible position, though. There's literally nothing good in this position for him. Queen d6. Oh, okay, look at him. That's a very sneaky move. If we play e4, our bishop is going to be hanging in some positions. Alright, one thing that we could do is they might want to play a5, a4 at some point, so how could we stop that idea? We'll just play a4, a5 ourselves.
Makes sense.
Oh, can he take here? Oh my, don't tell me I blundered that. Oh no, I didn't blunder, thank heavens. But okay, no, we that was a big strategic mistake. I completely missed that. Yeah, if he takes here, our queen is hanging. And so we would need to take and sort of fix his structure a bit. But then our knight can take, we're not losing material. Oh, Tarek got out. But okay, no, I mean, the one good thing about that is that once this knight leaves, this pawn is going to be weak here. Okay, so he played a5. If we just solve this problem, then we can take here in a healthy way. So we could play, yeah, we'll just defend the queen. Now if he takes, we can just take back in that super healthy way. One of the other reasons I like this is, look at this. This is a new weakness here. If in any endgame, like assume the rooks have been traded, we play bishop c3 and we just snatch it. It's dropping. It's dropping like an apple. h5, I guess he's going to be playing for h4. Oh, I guess, yeah, we just missed this, but no, this pawn is weak now. Yeah, we can take. Now we would want to take here, but what's the problem? They're going to play e4 with check, and that's going to be, actually that should be completely winning as well. But even so, what would be better here? We want to keep our knights as grooved in as possible. Right? They're threatening e4, and then their bishops are going to get opened.
I don't know. We're in a hurry, but I don't see what you're talking about.
We want to play e4 here.
Okay.
Right. Just always keep their bishops pointed into their own pawns.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
And as long as we can guarantee this knight this square, our knights are still very good here. I'm sure the computer will show that like there was a much easier way to win. I would bet that we were winning at some point. Right now, it's still a bit better. It's quite a rare position where you're playing two knights against two bishops and you're better. Normally, two bishops is just such an enormous advantage, but their bishops.
His white bishop especially is like done nothing literally the entire game.
Yeah, and more than that, look at that. Like wherever it goes, it's locking the rook out. If it goes here, then the rook can't move because the rook has to cover it.
Yeah.
And the other problem is there are just so many weaknesses in his structure now that if he ever trades off one of the bishops, there are enormous weaknesses. Like, let's say he plays bishop a6 to trade. Well, he's figuring out one of the problems, which was his bishop, but then we can immediately invade on this weak square. Positionally, this is just a disaster for him.
You're in trouble, Tarek.
Yeah. You've been served divorce papers. Okay, g4 is the best move. He has to do something like this. Yeah, g4. Okay, we're just gonna keep the bishops blocked off. Actually, no. Queen h4 looks very good. Look at queen h4. We're just starting to attack more and more weaknesses. He's really running out of squares. If he trades here, now we have a new file to attack from. Good. I'm just checking to make sure that the game was because the thing is we had the analysis board out, and I was just worried that somehow, like, when the game loaded, it was...
Don't worry about it.
It was different. Queen g6. Alright, we're just going to bring a rook in. This is such an uncomfortable position for him. I can only say it so many times. Like, what can he move?
Nothing.
He literally can't move anything. This bishop, wherever this bishop goes, it's either hanging or then it just inconveniences the rooks.
Yeah.
Right? If the bishop goes here for him to bring his rook out, well, joke's on him. He still can't move the rook there. I told you, I signed on to the bird course to just because my name is a bird, but it turns out that this is like my favorite opening. It's so strategic. Okay, he's chopping. He's gotten chopping. He wants to get his bishop this square. Alright. Yeah, it seems like some things are starting to come out. Okay, I'm just going to be playing quickly here, honestly. Like this... We're hanging the exchange, but the idea is we're going to take back here, or we're going to have enormous... Uh-oh. Oh, I just made a blunder. If we take here, he has checkmate, so I'm going to have to just flag him now. I can't believe this is the way that...
After we just talked about how good the position was for so long.
No, the position was fantastic, though. I'm sure the computer is going to say that it was like plus 10 or something. But yeah, we're down a rook here, but I'm going to flag Tarek. Don't worry, though. He's been eating his time. And you know how we're going to flag him? And we're going to wish him good luck. That's going to unsettle him.
If he speaks English.
Coming from his ex-wife's son. We'll play rook f5. You know, like if we were down a rook, this would be a fantastic position.
I often say that. I find that most positions where you're down a rook would be very much better if you weren't down that rook.
That's wise. He is check, but don't worry, we're gonna win this. If he plays e4, yeah, we're definitely losing. We're losing in many different ways.
But we're having a good time.
Yeah.
And that's what really matters.
Okay, he's trying to trade the queens. That's a mistake. If he plays bishop f6, we could checkmate him then. Yeah, he's gonna lose this now.
He done goofed.
Yeah, he just got forked. He's already getting bamboozled. Okay, let's take this.
We are so back.
Alright, and now he's losing. I don't know what was that about.
Why'd you do that?
What was that about, Tarek? You come to my house, you treat my mom with respect.
That's right. You gonna learn today.
E7 is just... Ooh, yeah, we gotta be a little careful. Oh no, okay, there's no stalemate. Alright, let's click open the analysis board. It must have been like plus 10 at some point. Maybe not plus 10, but like plus a few. Computer analysis is coming.
Hold on to your horses, folks.
Alright, so already here we're a little better. Like right now it's 0.4. I want to see that. Uh-oh. Look at this. Look at this clip. This was after when we blundered the piece. It's going to be like up here. Yeah. Well, it was plus 3.
Yeah.
Equal material, it was plus 3.
That's crazy.
I want people to understand that. Like, this is plus 3.
Yeah.
Just because it's positional domination. Like, queen g6, rook e3. Takes. Okay, rook takes was wrong. Knight takes. Knight takes, and if bishop f5, just something like knight g3. Things are already starting to go belly up here.
Nice. Then we had our little whoopsie daisy.
Yeah, and I mean, the idea is always at the end of the day, we might get a slightly ugly... We have some slightly ugly doubled pawns here, but they've pushed their pawns too far, and our knight is fantastic, and whatever bishop remains is still doo-doo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so this was winning several points. After queen e8, we're winning here. Computer... Okay, here we're winning. Okay, computer keeps on sobering up. I don't know what the deal with the computer is. It keeps on going. It starts off at +2, and then it goes up to...
That's weird.
Yeah. Augustus Gloop keeps on getting stuck in the system.
Wait, is that on the camera? Oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no. They can't see that.
No, they can. They can see the bar. They can't see the numbers.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, yeah, we just have a fantastic advantage here. F5 is very good. F5 is a superb move.
Yeah. Wait, did they just say that the bishop move was a blunder?
I guess so. Oh, knight c3. The idea is that if we can get our knight here quickly enough, then the knight is just going to drill into e6. So the idea is knight c3 to either do this or to do this.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, man. No, actually, okay, that makes complete sense, right? Because they can do this, and they can trade, but the difference here is now we immediately go for this. Look at this. They're stuck. We just... They're completely stuck. We're not winning any material there, but, like, what is their bishop's going to go here? We just play d3. We play d3, their bishop here. Congrats, their queen is stuck here. Their queen is nowhere to move. This is +4.
Nice.
Alright, so here... Sorry. Yeah, so going back here... I mean, the thing is, as well... Another thing is these positions are so foreign that even myself, as a grandmaster... I'm still sort of a little confused by them. Apparently we could have just traded here. Yeah, because they can't take with the bishop because we get the skewer. They have to
Yes.
take with the queen, and then we just put this knight here.
That's cool.
Yeah. This is such a terrible position. For those who are at home and can't see the whole screen, this is like just winning, pretty much. This entire middle game is completely winning. What was, okay, the average centipon loss was 67, which is really bad, but that's because I made that enormous blunt.
For me, that's a pretty good 67. If I ever get 67, I'm like, dang, I'm running hot today.
Are you serious? Have you
Oftentimes at my level, the numbers are so high.
No, I would say you could definitely get 67 once in a while.
Yeah, I definitely do, but not every. They could go as high as like 90 something.
Yeah. Apparently here, just takes at any points is just much better. And the idea is that they just have... Our knights have completely drilled into these squares. They can never be perturbed from these. And if their bishop ever tries to be diverted to do something else, our rooks drill into this square.
Yeah.
So takes... I'm wondering, I bet even here if we take, this is better. Yeah, check, knight f4, and we have such an advantage here. Like, they take, we take here. We're threatening this, we're threatening this. Yeah, this would have also been winning. That's crazy. Like, look at this. Queen e7, we play knight f6. And do they want to go here and get mated, or do they go here, and then they're completely bamboozled?
That's a nice one.
Yeah. So e4, g4, queen h4, queen g6. Yeah, and then I just make this blunder. And then here... Yeah, rook e3 would have still been fine, but I was so lost in the sauce. I really just didn't want to allow their bishop to get out, right? The idea with rook e3 is that then they're going to play e4, and finally their bishops get out, but tactically speaking, this still doesn't work. We have knight f4, and this is going belly up. And the idea is here, we take, and our rook is powering through. Even though their bishops are finally out, our rooks also turned out to be better. It turns out that they're also going to be paying the piper for the fact that this rook was never able to be fixed. And it's natural that the rook was not able to be fixed, right? Because their bishop had been waiting until only a few moves ago. All right, and then I blundered.
Whoops.
Yeah. He trades, and then he does this. Even here, apparently, after what is he? What is the computer talking about? That this is still dead lost? Okay, actually, this is dead lost. Look at that. We're gonna be losing this. We're gonna be losing this, and the pawn just runs head first.
Yeah.
But Tarek did not see it.
Thank God.
Yeah, he was too busy studying litigation.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, and then this is over. So yeah, this has turned out to be a pretty meaty video.
Yeah.
An hour, 12 minutes. I guess you'll cut out a bit of it, but yeah, thank you guys for joining us. This was a pleasure. I hope this was a demonstration. I mean, okay, a few of the moves I had to guide you through, but a lot of them were very were very logical, right? That's the whole idea.
Yeah, definitely I learned something, and I'm not going to remember all those moves specifically, but I will remember some, and I definitely will feel more comfortable. Thanks, guys. I hope you learned something. I definitely learned something, and I'll see you later.
Yeah, great.
Bye-bye.
Take care, guys.
Наблюдаю надводный старт.
Боевая тревога.
Цель скоростная групповая низколетящая пилинг 120, дистанция 1000.
065. Форсируйте переход в квадрат 3680. Квадрат 3680.